Jason Johnstone-Yellin. Yeah, that's right. I'm changing up the intro because today's episode is a bit different. I think it's funny as I'm reacting to you. I'm reacting to a facial expression you made, and our listeners couldn't hear your surprise when I led with Jason Johnstone-Yellin and not the normal thing. And they can't hear you nodding your fucking head either. You son of a bitch. Listen, this is a special episode, Jason, listeners. I think the last time we did a recap episode is when we had a festival known as Whiskey Jubilee. Where we'd run a festival.
Yep.
3 hours that evening.
Yep.
Screaming all night. Going out.
That was just a guess.
That was just a guess. Going out afterwards for finally being able to drink.
Having some beers.
Having some beers, having some pizza, having some whatever. Go to sleep late at night, wake up the next morning as broken people to recap what happened the previous night.
Indeed. Special episodes.
Yeah, so here we are. What is today's special episode? I'll tell you what it is, Jason. I'll tell you what it is, listeners. The dearly beloved, I almost said dearly departed. The dearly beloved Jason Johnstone-Yellin has been inducted, has been made.
Made, yeah. As Ollie says, like the mafia.
You're made, man. You, sir, are now, after a 2.5 year COVID wait, a keeper of the Quaich.
It's true. That is very, very true. I have received a great honor this day / last night.
You really have.
Thank you.
I'll tell you what hit me this morning.
Carry on. Look, I was just turning over.
And there it was, right across the face. You had said, completely unprompted, I had so much fun last night. Mm-hmm. So much fun. Could we talk about that?
I'm going to make an incomplete Joshua Hatton list.
Oh, right. Oh, this is excellent.
I got to speak a wee bit with Cara Lang.
Okay.
Fred Lang.
Yeah.
Who was made a master last night.
Mm-hmm.
I got to sit next to Stuart Nickerson.
Correct.
Who was made a master last night.
Indeed.
And was my nominator for keepers.
Correct. Mine as well.
Got to sit next to his daughter, Jennifer Nickerson, of Tipperary. We had Ronnie Rutledge on the other side. We had Bernard Schaefer on the other side.
Yeah.
It was just...
Kai.
We had Kai Ovallo on
right?
the other side.
From SMWS, yeah.
We had Richard Patterson, not at our table, but at just another table over. Richard Patterson was over there. It was just remarkable to get to wander around and speak to people that so often we are emailing, or with the pandemic, we were Zooming at Stephanie McLeod.
I was just going to say Stephanie McLeod.
Right. That's why it's an incomplete Joshua Hatton list,
yeah,
right? There's many names that we could keep going with here.
Yeah.
And so just being able to wander around, just seeing people, just being in the same room, having a drink in hand, being able to go and say, hello, how are you doing? Lovely to see you. Was just champion, absolute champion. So that was a huge part of it for me. And we've said this about whiskey our entire time, right? It's about the people. It's about the relationships. Mm-hmm. It's who do you know? Who do you chat with? Who gives you a laugh? Yeah, that was last night. It was absolutely cracking, really cracking. And the whiskeys were tickety-boo as well.
Yeah,
We only had one or two, you know.
1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 or 8
Talk
or 9.
about an incomplete Joshua Hatton list.
And then we came back to the hotel room and kept going. Yeah, there was... You made an interesting comment last...
Sounds like me.
Well, it was interesting in that... I've got to put a big caveat on this. Here's why it was interesting. Because the comment that you had made I think was similar to something that I felt when I was inducted, but it was also similar to a comment Lucas Denoyak made.
Lucas,
right? Who was made a keeper last night as well, who we've had on the podcast.
Yep. Philippe Schreberg.
Yeah, Philippe Schreberg, right?
Cover his writing.
Every once in a while, we're going to be just doing this podcast and another name, another name. And the point was, during the induction process, which, we're not going to go into too much detail, but you are read your resume, why you are deemed worthy to be made a keeper. And, you were next to a gentleman from Taiwan who's responsible for bringing in Blackadder, and I think it was Douglas Lang?
Yes.
Or Hunter Lang. And made those brands bigger in that market than any other market. Mm-hmm. And you felt as if some of your accolades may not be up to snuff with his. And I felt kind of the same, and Lucas felt kind of the same, like...
About me?
About you. But it's like this thing like, oh, I can color within the lines. This person painted the Mona Lisa, right? Like I understand what you feel, but I'm, but if you do look back and you do go over the various things that you've accomplished since your time at University of Aberdeen up until now, and it piles up, and there are big things in there, some very big things.
Yeah, and I was thinking myself over that comment that I made, and it strikes me that there's a business line to keepers in this induction, and there's a social / cultural line to this.
Okay.
And I think my through line is University of Aberdeen, Whisky Society, young people drinking, introducing them to a spirit in the mid to late 90s that was just getting back on its feet, right?
Yeah.
But it was about seeing people, talking to people, introducing them to whiskey, going off to the Pacific Northwest, the Inland Northwest, starting my Whisky Society up there with very, very, very dear friends. But it's about the people again, right?
Yeah.
And actually, this episode drops on Wednesday. Year 19 of that society will start on Friday. And it's now been on a decade without me even in the Inland Northwest or Pacific Northwest.
Wow.
And so that's still going. But that's a through line with people. Then I think of you and me, independent bottling, the nation. It's about the people, right?
Yeah.
Like you've been keeping me abreast of developments on the socials. And it's people saying, nice guy, good guy, right? Trustworthy guy, right?
Yeah.
It's about the people again. And so while we've had business success with Single Cask Nation, and I don't think I would be a keeper without the independent bottling company.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like I think the business shone the light, but it's continually about the people. And I think you and I love the people that we get to interact with more, and I hope I'm not speaking out of school here, more than the business side of businessing. Right?
Yeah. No, I mean, the fact of the matter is, and I think this is good for those who may not be familiar with Keepers of the Quaich, may not have listened to my episode from 2019. But, part of Keepers of the Quaich is evangelizing Scotch whiskey through either the spoken word, the written word, what have you, but really about business. It's whatever it takes to advance Scotch whiskey. And I think you had, great success early on with your blog, back in the day. I think we both did, among many others. Yep. But then you add that business element to it, right? And so, and then in the eyes of the committee of keepers who say yay or nay to someone who's being nominated or put forth for a nomination, they have to look at that, right? It's got to be this.
Yeah. You can't just be a hobbyist, even though that's incredibly valuable as well.
Incredibly valuable.
And that's what I mean about, I think the business helped shine the light on the work that was being done. Actually, I think, if my math is correct, last year was 25 years in and around whiskey for me. If you start that through line,
25 years back in my day.
I know, Josh, I don't look old enough. Thank you. But if you take 1996 with Petit Pirainen as the starting point, I wasn't a whiskey drinker before that. I had no interest in whiskey. I've talked about it many times in many different places about growing up in a blue collar family. Blends that were cheap as chips, came from bottom shelves, came in plastic jugs, got mixed. That was whiskey for me. And so if you take fall of 1996 as the beginning of that whiskey journey and that thread that brings me to last night, that's 1996 to 2021. My brain could be very broken right now and I could be embarrassing myself on the math, but I think that's 25 years. And so as I sit here today, this is 26. This is 26 years of almost to the day.
Because you said 1996, right?
Yeah.
There you go, 26 years.
Isn't that remarkable? Man and boy.
Man and boy.
I've seen things, Joshua.
Yeah.
I've seen things. You can't put the genie back in the bottle, I'll tell you that much. I should have said you can't put the spirit back in the bottle. That would have been...
that would have been better.
Still,
but
I'm a wee bit sleepy. So.
But here's the thing. I'm not going to edit any of this out.
We'll just leave that edit. Listeners can make that edit for themselves. Imagine Jason said, you can't put the spirit back in the bottle. Can I just talk about that for 1 second?
Yeah, please.
You and I obviously had 1 or 2 drams last night. And
yes.
And and yesterday afternoon and this morning. But we're sitting here enjoying the last release from the Keepers of the Quaich. And we actually have a 2007 Bunnahabhain that Jason puts on his readers. This is a stage.
You didn't remember this? I know this off the top of my head.
I've read it so many times. I just want to get it exactly right for the listeners. First fill bourbon hogshead transferred into a Palo Cordado hogshead in 2016. So there you go. So from 2007 to some point in 2016, it was in first fill bourbon. And then since 2016 till it was bottled in September of 2021, it lived in a wee Palo Cortado hogshead. And it's a tasty, tasty ram. Jess, you should see the colour on this. It's a winner. It's a real winner.
Would you call this iron brew color? Is this something David Stirk might like?
Maybe, yeah,
he loves his iron brew colored whiskies.
Yeah. It's certainly got that kind of orange hue, amber kind of redness, orange. Yeah, copper, dark copper, burnished copper. Yeah, real tasty dram. So that was our getting dressed whiskey, and then it was our evening whiskey, and now it's our morning interview whiskey. Haven't you really hit the bottle that hard?
Well, no, in part because the gift that I got you, which was Elements of Isla Lagavulin 12, or I should say, sorry, LG12. A couple of casks put together by our dear friend, Ollie Chilton. So we were hitting that a little bit. Listen, I want to ask you a question. You had said, I'm just going to be calling you out this whole time. So here's another thing you said.
You never listened to me this well.
I do. I just don't like to show it. I'm a grower, not a shower.
Yeah, something didn't hit you this morning.
So you had said that you enjoyed this banquet more than the previous one.
Yeah, I've said that to you a few times, have I not?
And I'm curious, do you think it was because this was your honor and you weren't the plus one this time around? Do you think that played into it? Or were there certain elements of the banquet overall that just sat with you better?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think that was a yes or no question, Jason.
Yeah, I definitely preferred eyes being on you at your induction.
Interesting.
I like it when it's about somebody else. It doesn't have to be about me. And so I liked that aspect of your time. I think this time, I think part of it is coming out of the pandemic and what I said at the beginning of this, right? Which is we're eyeballing people that we were seeing on Zoom.
Oh, yeah. It
right?
was like a...
Right? And so last
together.
night felt like a celebration that we haven't been able to partake in during the pandemic. And so I think, you know, it was the before times in 2019 for you. It was another event. And I don't want to downplay.
Yeah.
It was a great event. It was a great banquet. We had a blast. We got absolutely destroyed, which is wonderful. So wonderful. Hashtag please drink the whole bottle responsibly. And so but that was, in looking back at it, it was another event that we attended, right? Whereas last night felt like we were at a party, right? The music was celebratory, and we were clapping along and dancing a wee bitty, you know?
Yeah.
You know, for me, it was seated white Scottish person dancing.
You were doing the Molly Ringwald while seated.
I was really going to town in my own head. And so that felt celebratory.
Yeah.
Knowing the masters, those who were being inducted as masters of the Quaich, like that, I think added to the experience as well. And so, and the whiskies last night, I thought were really, really excellent, really excellent.
So I want to talk about the whiskeys in a minute, but the music I thought was really special. I'm going to bring on just a bit of violin music. So what was the name of the woman again on violin? She had so many accolades, and then there was the group behind her.
The woman again.
Yeah.
The woman again was Nicola Benedetti,
That's
CBE.
CBE. What is CBE?
I knew you were going to ask me that. Chairman of the board. it's something. It's something of the British Empire.
Yeah, it's like an OBE, MBE honor.
Exactly.
It's just this is the CBE.
Exactly.
Not to be confused with CBD. Very different.
But do you know that Nicola Benedetti is from North Ayrshire? And you want to talk about something that made it special last night?
Okay.
The chairman of Keepers,
Ian Smith,
is from Ayrshire.
There you go.
Nicola Benedetti CBE is from Ayrshire.
There you go.
Old JC in the room, Ayrshire. And then think how often Burns gets quoted, Burns gets referenced.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, and the
good Ayrshire man right there as well. So as much as we're up here in Blair Athol, we're at Blair Castle, there's a good little bit of Ayrshire running through proceedings, and that was really brilliant as well. Especially living in Virginia, coming over here, you know, feeling like I come home, but I'm a lowlander, I'm not a highlander, I've never claimed otherwise.
Yeah.
To then have, again, threads of Ayrshire running through this celebration, I really felt home, and that was...
Well, that's nice.
It was very nice.
I hope this song helps you feel even more at home.
Beautiful music, absolutely beautiful.
Right? Yeah, gorgeous. And I have a video of it. I'll post that up on Facebook, maybe after Yom Kippur, because this episode actually drops on Yom Kippur, and I will be, like Cinderella. I'm going to become a pumpkin, and I won't be posting anything. So I'll do it after the Yom Kippurs. What was I saying? Oh, the music. No, the whiskey. Ladies.
Words are hard.
We kicked it off with something that I did not expect to be surprised or pleased with.
Yep. Yeah, I don't want to be seen to be going to bat for another brand, but you and I were so
No, listen, good
and
whiskey is good whiskey.
spellbound.
You need to, I think that's something you need to shout about.
It's in my program that I have right beside me,
I have it all in my
Joshua.
head. I don't know why you need the program, Jason.
No, I'm going to get it right. That's the difference, right?
Okay, Jason puts on his old man readers.
There we go. Just
Now that I've got them on.
26 years around whiskey, my friend. 26 years. So listen to this. This is going to shock our listeners, potentially. We started out with the Singleton of Glenord celebratory bottling.
Mm-hmm.
That celebratory bottling is doing a lot of heavy lifting at the end there. And there's a paragraph here. I just want to give this its due, and then you and I can have a wee chitty chat.
Yeah.
Taking inspiration from the sweet, fruity aromas that fill the stillhouse, this is a balanced and smooth whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
I just winked at Joshua. On the nose, it suggests
Thankfully, it was your eye.
dried fruits and crystallized orange peel, with mid-notes of vanilla fudge evoking the warmth of the stillhouse in winter. After sampling, nosing, and tasting spirit, and this is why I'm reading this, after sampling, nosing, and tasting spirit from over 200 casks, our blenders selected just 12 second fill sherry casks to mature the slow crafted whiskey. At second fill, the casks add a fantastic depth of flavour to this unique expression. However, it crucially maintains its unmistakably Glenord spirit character.
Yep. What did we say last night?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Richly flavoured, vibrant and smooth, with a balancing spiciness, this ageless Singleton of Glenord has real presence and is a moment to savour. And it came in at what strength?
51.8% alcohol.
You ever had a Singleton of that Singleton line of that strength?
I've never purchased a Singleton bottle in my life. I know I have had some Singletons before, but yeah, it's just I've never paid attention to it.
Given that we always speak honestly, when I saw that on the table last night, I was like, what is happening here? How are we starting with
how are
a
we starting
Singleton
with
of
this?
Glenord? You've got to be kidding me. But
it was 51.8, and so we said, okay, there may be something here, and personally, I love Glenord. I think the distillate is fantastic. It has this very proud, high-shouldered feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like
you said that on the night,
and so I think it really did hold true to the spirit. I'm glad they used second fill, right? So I think second fill and refill can be so great because it does what the casks do, what I think casks are meant to do: frame the spirit, not overflow it, not kill the spirit, I should say.
But the other thing we were saying is how well it complemented the course.
Oh my gosh.
Right? And so I've just got the language here because, again, these words deserve to be read. Locally foraged wild Perthshire mushrooms with kohlrabi pickle served with a confit egg yolk and an Isle of Mull cheddar crisp. It was like a mini bowl of ramen, right? It had such rich umami, and it pulled out the rich umami sherry quality of the Glenord. Yeah. They paired so fantastically well, and as the night went along, we kept returning to the Glenord.
Yeah,
right? There was no lack of whiskey last night, and we still returned to that Glenord, and both said that's a bottle worth looking for.
That is such an interesting connection. I think umami is a far less obvious quality in foods or drink for most people. And the fact that whoever paired it through the umami, that's the connective tissue, I think is a really cool way to pair those two items.
Yeah. No, it was an absolute cracking beginning to what was going to be an excellent evening.
All right. Give us whiskey number 2, Jason.
This was such a lovely connection back to your induction. When for your induction, the hotel room whiskey that we returned to was the hand-filled Deanston that you'd picked up at the distillery with Ida, your wife. And we put a hurt on that bottle.
I think the bottle put a hurt on us, Jason.
And so to see a Deanston 18-year-old show up on last night's menu, on last night's table, was like, oh, that's nice. That's a lovely connective piece again.
100%. And at 46.3, I think the ABV was spot on. That nose. Is there a bit to read about it in the?
It is. This one's quite significant as well. Right. This beautiful single malt whiskey is from Deanston Distillery and aged for 18 years. The nose yields honey and fresh stone fruits that burst out of the glass with creamy vanilla and the signature waxy orange note of Deanston. Floral notes, chewy biscuit, and toasted cereal emerge with a hint of spicy cloves. The palate is zesty with orange, then stone fruits at first. A second sip gives honey, beeswax, and creamy toffee. The waxy mouthfeel creates a rich, fruity, and sweet sensation on the tongue. With water, the spicy notes from the aroma become more noticeable. Cloves, gingerbread, and white pepper complement the sweet and fruity flavours to give a deep, well-balanced whiskey. The finish is long and complex, with dried apricots, candied orange peel, and a warm ginger finale.
Yes. It's funny, Deanston is one of those, and we talked about this, I think, in the last Extra. It's one of those distilleries few people think about, talk about, but I think of Deanston, I'm immediately interested, and I'm always reminded of Mike at Travel Bar. Like, that's his distillery.
Oh, really?
That's what excites him when it comes to Scotch whiskey. One of many things, but that, I think, is towards the top. And I see a Deanston, I always think about Mike at Travel Bar.
Interesting.
Yep.
I love it when people have got their distilleries.
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
Says the guy with Lechig. Back when that used to be esoteric. But we were saying this last night. And this was a kind of a larger conversation we were having. Look, we had Glenord. We went into Deanston. We followed it with a distillery we'll talk about in a minute. I think our job in these 2020s, and we're talking about this thread, and we're talking about people, and we're talking about the culture of whiskey. We have to get people moving beyond the big five, right? If there's five big distilleries, right? The Highland Parks, the Springbanks, the Macallans, right? Even Balvenie to maybe a lesser degree. But when you say, oh yeah, we bottle casks. Oh, do you have anything from Highland Park? Oh, do you have anything from Springbank? Right?
Yeah.
And we were talking last night about the sheer expense attached to casks like
it's
that.
It's unobtainium.
Right.
Right?
And so it needs to be, and this will get Elijah excited, it needs to be the Othrusks. It needs to be the Blair Atholls of the world. It needs to be the Deanstons of the world. I think our next important role in this industry is to champion and really get people believing. And one of the things that we'd said last night at the table was, I would say over the last year, we've really gone to bat for Dal-Ewan.
Yeah.
Really put it out there and said, we love this.
Yes.
And we think you should love this too. And now with the happy accident that sold out lickety-split, right? The first fill bourbon into the first fill sherry for the 11-month finish. The nation is also saying, any more Dal-Ewan coming? Is there another form of Dal-Ewan coming? But I think if we kind of show that interesting experimentation, or we source, the best casks, and I mean the literal wooden casks. Source the best casks we can start to show other distilleries. I think about an Inchgower that we've got coming down the line, right?
Yeah.
Like Inchgower. How many people, when you meet them at a party, say, "Oh, you're an independent bottle. Did you bottle Inchgower?" Right?
Yeah.
Nobody. So I really do. I really think over the next 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, it's getting people away from these big hitting distilleries and continuing to explore Scotland's many distilleries even as new ones come on board. We're in the Holyrood conversation, right? Lag just got released the other day. Not that we have access to Lag, unfortunately, but like there's a place to go put your money. Go follow that. You know, the day after this episode drops, I'll be at Lochlee, right, back in Ayrshire. There's another place to go and explore and get another distillery name out there. But it's going to take work, and it's going to take podcast and interviews and being out on the road and pouring for people to say,
100%.
Get to know a Thrusk. Get to know how to pronounce it.
Right, but this is something that I don't think we've ever shied away from doing. Think about how we would lead with Glen Talkers in so many tastings with the various bottlings we've done, and it gives us a chance to say, you've never heard of this distillery, but there's a reason why this is the backbone to this blend, or that as a backbone to that blend, because it's damn good whiskey. And now you get a chance to try it as a single malt. So I think that's the Scottish aspect of it. On the U.S. side, I think what you're saying rings true for the U.S. Like, we would love to continue to bottle Wild Turkey, and we will continue to bottle Wild Turkey as long as that relationship is there, and hopefully that's forever. And we'd love to do Buffalo Trace and more Heaven Hill and all these. However, Black Button is making great bourbon, right? You've got Copperworks making fantastic single malt. The list will go on. I'm not going to do a Joshua Hatton list, but my point is, you know, not here in the U.S., because we're in Scotland, over there in the U.S., there are so many distilleries that can be championed and should be championed, and it's okay to step outside the comfort zone because the big boys are getting more dear.
Right? Oh, for sure.
And they still make great whiskey, but it's not as accessible because more and more people are getting into it. And where else can we find great flavor? That's the key. Where else can we find it? And like you had said, it's really our job to shine the light and say, go down that alley, go down that alley.
100%. And I love that aspect of the work, of the business.
Yeah.
And I know I've said it many, many, many times in the past, but thinking back to the beginning of the company, being in rooms, pouring an Arran. How many of you have heard of Arran? Nobody. Pouring Kilchoman.
Yeah.
How many of you have heard of Kilchoman? Nobody. How many of you heard of Benriach? Nobody.
Right.
And now I think of those three as certainly that, not the top tier, but gosh, so many people are now familiar with Arran.
Oh, yeah.
You know, Kilchoman clearly singing and expanding and doing amazing work, right? Like they're so on the radar now.
Yeah.
Okay, what's the next wave behind that?
Yeah.
Who else? It's also interesting. I've already said Lag, and here we're telling a story about Arran.
So do me a favor quickly before we go on to the third whiskey.
Yeah.
What did we have paired with the Deanston?
Well, I wasn't going to give away the whole menu.
Oh, come on, Jason.
No, it's
come on. So we want to.
The Deanston went with the haggis course.
So we had some veggie haggis.
We did. You and I did
with pickled turnips.
Yeah. Smoked potato puree, pickled turnip, and foraged salsa verde.
Have you ever foraged for salsa verde, Jason?
Yeah, M&S all the time. All the time.
I foraged at Big Y. It's my local supermarket. All right, so
I only forage for salsa verde at the local bodega. So silly.
Okay. So then we go on to, and by the way, before you go into this next whiskey, you know, there was, here's the whiskey, here's the food, but then there was the is it the ode to the haggis? I feel like I have that wrong. It's the
address.
The address
you
to
put
the
ode in my head. I couldn't get out of that headspace. Yeah, address.
I've been them all. You take your place, pinch right nor firm, and wheel, and you're worthy of a grace, as lambs my earn. The groaning trencher, there you fill your hardies like a distant hill, and your pen would help to mend a mill in time of need, while through your pores the dews distill. like amber bead. His knife, no. His knife, say rustic, labour decked, and cut you up with ready.
So that's right. So there's the address to the haggis. There were some speeches. There was some music that we heard before. There was some bagpiping and some drums going on. Mm-hmm. There was never a moment where there was much downtime.
Yeah,
there was just things happening all the time.
Yeah. No, all kept in place by Annabelle Miko.
Oh, she's fantastic.
Does wonderful
Superstar.
wonderful work. And on the night, we never ever get to speak to her on the night, but I always look at her eyes.
Yeah.
And her eyes at the Keepers looks like our eyes at the Jubilees. And so given that you started this episode talking about, the deconstructing the Jubilee episodes that we did in the past, yeah, I absolutely think about what it takes to run 3 flawless hours, 5 flawless hours, 6 flawless hours.
Yeah, yet her job was a bit more complex than our job. Yes, I have to get these royals in, and we have to get the cater.
And a pipe band has to march through all these seats and tables.
Yeah, she really is. She really is something else. Looking forward to getting her on the podcast.
We say it every time we see her.
No, I know.
Come on, Annabelle.
All right, whiskey number 3, Trois, or Shesh, or Ein, Schwein, whatever the third is.
I think Joshua's broken, okay.
Just going through languages.
So this is the Keepers of the Quaich 7th bottling. And as I alluded to a moment ago, it's from a distillery that, oh gosh, I hope I'm not being a rude boy on the podcast. It's from a distillery that nobody is talking about.
That is true.
So we're talking about a Tamnavulin.
Tamnavulin, not to be confused with, this is Lagavulin's non-PD cousin. This is Tamnavulin.
So this 22-year-old, this cask has been hand-selected by Richard Patterson.
Dickie P.
From Tamnavulin Distillery, and has been matured for 22 years, with the last 2 years into a German... Spat Burgunder. Spat Burgunder.
There you go. I think you got the second part wrong, but I'll go with it.
It's a ripening Pinot Noir cask. The nose is elegant with ripe raisins, succulent peaches, Victoria plums dipped in kirsch with a hint of raspberry coulis.
Ooh, yeah.
With time, glacé orange segments, luscious Cape gooseberries, and bitter chocolate emerge. Were these notes written by you?
No, but
they have your DNA all over them.
Yeah, because they got me going. That's how I'll talk about a whiskey.
On the palate, there is Madagascan vanilla, tangs of Parma violets, truffles, and rosemary, with a kiss of toffee apple and Doyen pear. This is...
Oh my God, that's...
so Joshua. It's hilarious.
I'm just so impressed by the poetry behind this.
I think Dickie P wrote these.
And I just love that you think that I could write as eloquently and as romantic as that.
But the fact it's not vanilla, it's Madagascar vanilla.
Right? Yeah,
it's not pear, it's Doyen pear. It's not plums, it's Victoria plums.
There's clear differences, and you have to be specific.
Okay, so then, so I think we're still on the palate here. Then freshly
only 7 more paragraphs to go, listeners.
Then freshly baked ginger cake, toasted pistachios, hot brioche drenched in heather honey and chocolate orange. A splash of water will also help to tease out a finale of soft Pontefract cakes, demerara sugar, black forest panna cotta, and Logan berries.
I love all of that so much.
I wonder if these are Dave Broom's notes. Because
Oh, you think
he's
so?
very much a hot brioche guy. There's often on these Keeper of the Quaich bottlings, Charlie McLean will write notes, Dave Broom will write notes, and Martine Nouet will write notes.
Yeah.
And when you get the Dave Broom notes, there's always a warm butter somewhere. There's a hot brioche somewhere, whether it's warm or toasted. I wonder if those are Dave's.
But does he get that poetic? Like, I've read his notes, and they don't often seem as flowery as this.
Yeah, but they're so specific that I could see it being Dave, who we didn't see last night.
No, who we didn't see last night.
He wasn't there.
But,
it's not that we missed him. He wasn't there.
But you made an interesting point about the Tam-Navulin.
Talk about a thread through this entire episode. Wow. Oh, gosh. How much longer is this going? I don't know if I could be interesting this much longer.
It's been your day. I gotta say nice things.
It's like my birthday all over again.
You were making a connection to the Tam-Navulin that we had last night, to the Bunnahabhain we're having now, to the Talisker that we've had previously, in that there is a thread to all these bottlings where the nose is a bit quieter, it's a bit softer approach, and then you taste it, and then there's an explosion.
Yeah.
And I find that interesting, and I think that it's a sign of a really good either independent bottler or committee who is in lockstep with what they feel is key to their bottlings.
Yep.
Yeah.
What was also interesting last night was the playing around with water on this one.
Yes.
And Stuart Nickerson firmly believed the water softened the wood. Jennifer Nickerson had said the same thing.
Yeah.
Was that the wood was quite heavy. It was quite pronounced.
Yeah.
And the water just softened it. Mm-hmm. And I drank it neat, and I drank it with a little bit of water, just a few drops added to it. Mm-hmm. And I was conscious of something you were saying in my left ear, which was, I wonder at what point this falls apart with the water.
Yeah.
And I think you pushed it. Did you push it and
No,
and
I
have
didn't.
it? Oh, okay.
No,
okay. You didn't have it fall apart with the water.
No,
you got
I
out
was.
of there before that.
I was, 3 drops, 4 drops. I had a few pours of that. I think at most I did 6 drops of water, and at no point did it fall apart. I would say the wood got. It never got astringent.
Sorry. Sorry. That's the LG12. Sorry.
It never got astringent by any stretch, but there was a wonderful bitter quality that came through, which reminded me of the bitter fruitiness from Campari or Aperol coming through, right? Which is a pleasing bitter quality.
Yes, which I think the wood done right delivers that little bit of framing bitterness, which is why I actually preferred it without the water. I like that little bit of increased astringency from the Pinot Noir.
Oh, okay. So I disagreed with Stuart and Jennifer. I thought, I didn't find it astringent before or after the water. I just found that the water increased a bitterness to it. So maybe we're just in the end really saying a couple of different things here, but
yeah, cracking dram though. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Went back, poured it plenty more times.
and so this was paired with my favorite dish of the evening. Read it to us, Jason.
So, again, this is just the veggie. It was venison for everybody else.
Yeah, that's right.
You and I were over here having salt baked salaria, smoked beetroot with salsify?
Yeah, sure.
Testify.
Hispy
cabbage and sloe gin and Juniper. Juniper.
That smoked beetroot was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I thought it was a turnip at first because it was white. I never saw a white beetroot before.
I thought that's the salaria.
No, the salaria was the thing that looked like celery.
The beetroot was the sauce.
then
there was
what
a turnip
this?
in the previous dish. That was
that was the sliced turnip. But there was like a wedge that seemed like it was. I thought it was smoked turnip.
Yeah, no, that was the smoked beetroot was the sauce.
So
This is great podcasting.
Oh my gosh!
Maybe just cut this part.
Nah, keep it all. Anyway, it really was delicious. Final whiskey of the night, Jason, was. At first, I thought it was a strange choice because we went from cask strength to 46.3 to cask strength down to 40%. And this, right?
Got to get people out the door.
You gotta get people out the door.
Night's over, friends.
But this was the Isle of Skye Royal Salute 25-year-old. So it's a blended whiskey. And the reason for it was in honor of the Queen and her Jubilee and her passing. But as that was being poured, I think it wasn't Ian Smith. It was the Duke of Argyll. He gave a toast to King Charles, to King Charlie. And it was quick, it was short, but I think it was the proper pour for this change in the monarchy. And it's not my monarchy, it's not my thing, but I appreciate the respect that they gave and the toast that they gave. I thought that was very nice.
And Jason was in the car park at that time.
Yeah, you're in the car park. You missed it.
I was outside talking to Ronnie, working out how you and I were getting home. And home we got.
So those. Oh, and what was it paired with? What was that dessert, Jason? That dessert was.
So there was a chocolate cake floating around, but there was this
we didn't
other
have that.
cake,
Yeah,
and it's not.
It was. You ready for this, Jason? Got to find it. I have no idea what it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I did see on the table there was a chocolate cake served, and then there was what we were eating. But then other people had what we were eating as well. So
no, I think that this is what we had. Because beside the word chocolate in it,
it was an olive oil
everything
cake.
else rings true. So it says, you ready for this?
Are you going to omit the word chocolate?
Yeah, this is blank, and it says, chocolate and olive oil cake with fermented cherry and topped with oat creme. Creme, I think you have to say it like that. Well, how do you say this word? Fraiche? Fraiche?
Creme fraiche. Creme fraiche. They go together. Creme fraiche.
Ah, just like Hans Landa
100%.
got the strudel. Gotta wait for the creme. Fucking Shoshana did not want that. I just watched that movie again, Inglourious Bastards, on the flight over. Anyway,
gotcha.
And then it had toasted almonds, and that dessert was remarkable, and I think paired really well with the Royal Salute. And the last thing I'll say about the Royal Salute here is it was put together by Sandy Hyslop, who I've met before, and lovely, lovely, lovely guy. Put together a nice little whiskey fitting of that toast.
Yeah, there you go.
So if you had to whittle down the most special part of the night, what would it be for you?
So I've got two equal firsts.
All right.
And one of which is very, very obvious. It's really special being there with you. Right? Like that's who we are. It's what we do. It's how we're known.
Yep.
There's Jason. There's Joshua.
Yep.
Oh, there's Joshua. And there's Jason.
Yeah.
Right? Like that.
Yep.
That's very special. Very, very special. And so to have that moment with you and your support of that moment, very, very special. So thank you.
Thank you. I'll be here in the corner crying.
And the drums. and then the other part, and I said this to his face, being inducted as a keeper in the same ceremony that Stuart Nickerson became a master.
Yeah.
That was brilliant. That was so, so brilliant. He's the reason for me being here, and he's getting honoured too, and well deserved. Yeah, it's funny actually. So you talk about no airs and gracies, right? So on one hand, we've got keepers, wah, 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 and masters, wah, wah, wah. You and I stopped yesterday and got some iron brews at the Sterling Services.
Yes.
And I showed you the spot in the car park where I interviewed Stuart Nickerson for One Nation Under Whiskey. And so there you go. You can have Blair Castle, you can have the pipe band, you can have all the whiskies, you can have the courses. You can also have Iron Brew in a car park. And, and Stuart is in all the places. Happy to be in all the places. So yeah, that was really hugely special as well. And
all right.
If it hadn't been for the pandemic, I wouldn't have been inducted at the same time he became a master.
That's right, because he wasn't meant to be inducted as a master in 2020.
Correct.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
So the next time somebody says something bad about the pandemic, the global shutdown, and the end of global logistics, just remember, because of the pandemic, I got to be inducted as a keeper at the same time Stuart Nickerson became a master.
Silver linings.
It's not all bad. It's not all bad. I'm not going to hear another word against the pandemic.
Hashtag blessings. Hashtag blessings. Oh, did you hit your head? You hit your head. Jason's just laughing, smashing his head on the
right in the corner of the dresser. And then listen, we don't normally do this, but we're sitting in Blair Athol, just a wee bitty north of Pitlochry. We're at a bed and breakfast called The Firs.
Oh, yeah.
And I have to say, the two owners here, Pauline and Lindsay, are two of the nicest, kindest people.
Yes.
And they have treated us incredibly well and looked after us incredibly well. It was raining last night. They gave us a lift over, right?
Right, amazing.
They dropped us at Blair Castle. They were happy to come back and pick us up if need be. And it was only when the night started getting long and the speeches hadn't started yet, and I sent them a wee note and said, head off to bed, don't worry about us, we'll get home. That's when I was in the car park with Ronnie, checking the weather, having a look to see if we could walk, the 1.2 miles back to our accommodation.
Yeah.
And the weather cleared, we walked home, Lindsay and Pauline could go off to bed. Such wonderful hosting, really wonderful hosting. So I just wanted to give them major props as well. Yeah,
Lindsay was helping me tie my bow tie. So I got this, I finally have my kilt. It's the Jewish tartan. It's meant for Scottish Jews. I'm half of that. I'm at least Jewish. I'm not Scottish. So it was a bit cosplay last night. I'm not going to lie. But the bow tie that I bought, I thought was a clip-on.
Yes.
And it was not a clip-on.
It was interesting, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think your people would say it wasn't a.
It was a build-your-own bow tie.
And so I'm there sweating. We've got to get in the car. We got to get over there. Couldn't do it. Lindsay drives you over. As soon as you left, I calmed down, got the bow tie down.
Calm down.
And then he came back and he drove me over. And so I was thinking this morning while you were, still sleeping.
Heck yeah. I'm still sleeping now.
That our walk what? That our walk from Blair Castle back to the Firs had that same special quality from when we were on Isla and we were hanging with Ollie Chilton and Julie Hamilton and just a host of other people. Not doing the list, Jason.
Incomplete Joshua Hatton list.
Right? They were staying up by Lagavulin and we were staying down in...
They were staying up by LG.
What did I say? They were staying by LG. They were staying by Tam Navulin's cousin, Lagavulin. And... Right, and so we took that walk back.
Oh, it's beautiful.
On the South Shore.
Fantastic walk, absolutely fantastic.
And it's that walk you have where you're just feeling high on life because you had the best time and high on other things.
High on life with 20 drams in you. I'm just high on life.
But it was just everything felt celebratory.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
From beginning to end, even until 3:20 in the morning last night, Jason, while we were drinking the drinks, and
Did we got to sleep after 3 o'clock in the morning?
yes, we did. It was 3:20 a.m.
Huh. There you go. Time flies when you're having fun.
And last two things I want to say about whiskey. And I realize we probably want to get out of here shortly. This is going to be a slightly shorter episode.
Nice one.
You
Did I say something interesting?
did not say something interesting.
That was all out of interesting things.
You did something that I did.
I did not have sickness and diarrhea. That was uniquely your induction.
Sickness and diarrhea. It's like anyway. No, you brought a hip flask with a particular whiskey that you thought was special for the occasion, and I brought a hip flask of whiskey that I thought was special for the occasion, and I thought it'd be a good idea to share what we brought. You want to start?
You and I are big fans of Lagavulin. And there's a dram that you and I return to frequently in special moments. And there was one night I was watching The Kaminsky Method on Netflix. Great show, highly recommend.
Oh yeah.
And I was watching that, and they were basically talking about camaraderie and really supporting the ones you love and really let people know. And I went out and I poured this Lagavulin then, and I took a photo of it and I sent it to you, and I said, "Cheers to you, love you. You know, get it down you." Right?
Yeah.
And if memory serves, is it the 2015 Fashil?
It is 100% the 2015 Fajil.
Is it 19 years old?
24 years old, just
Is it
so that's the
really?
thing.
Are you kidding me?
It was meant to be a 19-year-old,
Okay.
but they put together this. I don't know how much of this is true, how much of it is folklore or whatever, but the understanding is it was meant to be a 19-year-old, and what they put together instead was a marriage of 24-year-old casks.
Interesting.
And it was priced as a 19-year-old and not as a 24-year-old.
It's funny that holds such a special place for me because it's an older Isla, and I don't tend to gravitate towards older Islas. But it's just incredibly well put together.
Yeah, well, unlike some other Isla distilleries, and when I say it this way, I don't want it to sound like other Isla distilleries are doing it wrong. It's just things mature differently. Unlike other Isla distilleries, Lagavulin does not seem to lose its punch as it gets older. It still has a little chutzpah to it, where Lefroy gets really pretty, right?
Real soft.
And Port Ellens, when you get them, they got soft and flinty when, you taste. I know you've had some younger Port Ellens, and they're like fiery and punchy and coal dust and all this other stuff, right? And so I think part of the reason you like is it still has some oomph.
Yeah.
While getting the benefit of some elegance out of 24 years in that cask.
Yeah.
Casks.
Yeah, I really thought there was a very good chance of us bringing the same whiskey. But tasting yours blind, it had such an old whiskey quality to it.
Yeah.
Right? It had kind of a regal presence in the glass.
Yeah.
And I couldn't even guess what it was that you had, and it's one of ours. And I couldn't even guess because it just tasted like it could have been bottled in the 70s or bottled in the 80s.
100%.
Right?
Yep.
And I love getting that chance to re-examine something of ours.
Yep.
Lacking all context.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, right. And so for our listeners, it was our undisclosed 28-year-old, which we can happily say it was a Daluane.
Yeah, there's that name again.
And it was 28 years in refill sherry. And back to your statement before where you said, you know, I would not be a keeper if it weren't for the bottling company, if it weren't for Single Cask Nation. And I say the same, right? And my opinion is that 28-year-old Del-Ewan is the best cask we've ever bottled. You can't compare it to the Islas, right? It has to be separate from that. But it's special because it is doing what whiskeys were doing when they were bottled in the 70s and 80s. Yep. It's hailing back to an older style of whiskey that you simply don't find.
Yep.
And because I think it's likely our best cast, I wanted us to be able to share that because this is us, dude.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. It's just Masters after this.
Yeah.
10 years, clock starts.
Yep, there it is. Tick tock, tick tock.
I'll have to get a different bio for that one. I'll just have it talk about the millions that the company has made and the Single Cask Nation being global. You know?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we finally made it to a 2 million case per year company. We've outsold Johnny Walker. That's the amazing thing.
That'll be in the Master's bio. That's how we get that. Yep. So, we've become the number one independent bottler in Israel. Like, that'll be on the bio.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. You want? I mean, I do wonder if we'll ever be made masters. I mean, being made a keeper and being made a master are different things. You know,
that's why they call them different things.
Yeah, and so who knows? God,
if anyone's going to wax lyrical about it, it's us.
It's us, and we'll do it for a very long time. So before we get out of here,
aye,
have some closing words.
Aye.
I was curious if there's anything else that you wanted to highlight from last night or from your journey overall that brought you to last night.
Oh, I wanted to deliver the tasting notes for the Bunnahabhain to the listeners.
Oh, okay.
Because it's the only tasting notes we haven't delivered. So this 2007 Bunnahabhain with the Palo Cortado 5 years. The colour is rich, glowing amber, good beading. This is like the address to the haggis. Right? The nose. Discreet maritime notes of salt crystals and orange zest on a base of buttery brioche. Paging Dave Broom. Dave Broom.
Look at that.
Paging Dave Broom. Palate. Lightly oily and surprisingly intense. Mm-hmm. Momentarily sweet, then salty and spicy. Softer when reduced. The finish is long and spicy with lingering salt. A formidable Bunnahabhain.
Oh, I like that. Formidable. We've used that
we
before as well. Yeah.
Hey, we're pro level, man. We're pro level. Pro level, mate.
Do you agree with those tasting notes?
I do.
I do too.
I do. Yeah. So there you go. So that's that. We've got the LG12 in our glass, and it's delicious as well. The bourbon just lets that Lagavulin or the LG quality shine right through. So that's a great pour. We've got our hip flasks beside us. Might have a wee bit more of the Quaich Lager at some point. Definitely a wee bit more the 28-year-old undisclosed Del-Ewan, which is such a great title for it. We should release more undisclosed Del-Ewan. That's a great way to do business. And just enjoying the rest of this calm day where we don't have to be anywhere. We don't have to tie any bow ties. Nope. We don't have to get the kilts on. It's just a nice, easy, lazy whiskey day, maybe with a second nap in it.
Oh, that sounds good. That sounds good. So, listeners, thank you as always for tuning in, for spreading the word about our podcast. We hope you continue to do that. You could spread your word to your friends, or you could do it by way of giving us a rating on Apple iTunes. That's always nice. give us the 5 stars. We will thank you greatly. If you want to reach out to us, send us an email. Send Jason a congratulations or some sort of cheeky email. You can reach out to us, info@singlecastnation.com or questions@onenationunderwhiskey.com. Whiskey, of course, without that pesky letter E, especially as we're here in Scotland talking about Scotch whiskey.
And yet Keeper has got 3 E's in it.
Fuck.
Look at
3? Keeper. Oh, no. Oh, wait. The 30 comes after the P. Got it.
Words are difficult. Riddle me this, Batman.
Yeah.
Is there another whiskey podcast out there hosted by 2 keepers of the Quaich?
I don't think that there is, Jason.
Well, let's get out of here on that.
Mazel to the Tav, brother.
Cheers.
Cheers. Love you, sir.
Love you.